Hi, everyone. This Kenneth is actually a great transition from Sam because there's a Kaya logo on my slide later. By the way, Kaya is amazing. I heard from projects being deployed on Kaya, making 300,000, 400,000 a month revenue. So definitely true quality users there. And so this actually is a great transition because we're talking about digital identity. And when we're talking about the quality of users and how do you actually qualify and verify the quality of users. And that's exactly why it's so important to have a digital identity infrastructure for the new internet phase. I came from a machine learning, AI, data background that enable company and company, brand and brand data matching and clean room and all those kind of use cases. So this is our point of view on digital identity. Digital identity, from our point of view, is basically the backbone of the internet. And why is it the case? If you look at Larry Fink's, this is very fresh, by the way. Larry Fink's talk about, one day I expect tokenized funds will become as familiar investors as ETF. And one thing that he wished to solve is digital identity and verified identity. And why is that? Is because we don't really see the world where there are billions or even trillions of dollars on the blockchain, and there's no single digital identity that is verifiable. And if you look at the digital identity phase in Web 2 and also Web 3, and more so in Web 2, it's even more fragmented. Think about you use your account on Uber or you use your account on Deliveroo. It's basically a different account, and your identity is not transferable. It's not cross-verification is almost impossible. So for programmable money and AI inference in the future, if we want to build a true semantic web and being able to have a fully autonomized internet, digital identity is the backbone of it. Second, a lot of companies are trying to solve interoperability at the transaction level. And the transaction level, what I mean is creating atomic transactions across multiple EVM chains or non-EVM chains. But our point of view is that would take some time. That would create larger fragmentation, larger cluster of alliance. And at the end, what comes down to the first principle is every single user start with an account and digital identity and their data. So our answer to interoperability with a sizable network of hundreds of portfolio companies and hundreds of millions of users, our answer to that is digital identity. Third is digital identity cannot really reach the right network effect without critical mass. That's why we think we have the accountability to build this. So BlackRock announced basically they anticipated $10 trillion being on chain. And I cannot see a world that there's no intersection of compliance and real-world assets on the blockchain in the future. It just doesn't make sense. It's not going to happen that way. If we want real-world assets to be on-chain and tapping into real-world users, you would need on-chain compliance. The question is, how along the spectrum of compliance and decentralization, how can you provide a privacy-preserved digital identity that is verifiable on-chain and having programmable access for these users and accessing all these RWA assets and the yield that Sam was just talking about for Kaya? Second is, this is very fresh as well, 23andMe. Basically, you see the headline, 23andMe is going to sell your genetics data because they went bankrupt. They basically need to sell the business. But people who trade their data actually for convenience. And how do you imagine in a world that your genetics data can be freely transferable, freely monetizable without you knowing about it? You probably sign some fine prints. But the feature that we see with digital identity is you would own your own genetics data, and you would be able to monetize from your own data if someone will find your data valuable. And by verifying it, you need to sign your approval to authorize any kinds of third parties to access your data. Third is, if you look at the big tech success, let's put some names like Meta, Google, or any kinds of companies. The whole business model is based off of creating the walled gardens of data, ring fencing the data, and not sharing the data, so that every single brand who actually wants to tap into a larger user base, they need to work with a centralized party. I was in this space before. I was working with LiveRamp. I was working with the largest ad tech platform in the whole world. And I was the one who was buying data from data broker to know exactly where the user is from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. in which mall and staying for how long and which floor. Imagine how scary that is. And I was the one on the other side. And imagine the world where your data is freely monetizable, freely transferable. And that shouldn't happen. That's not right. The digital identity world that we imagine is user should have that ownership. And whoever is trying to ask for that data should be monetized. And the user should benefit the most out of it. Here we are proposing from a fragmented network to an open network. A fragmented network, the Uber, Deliveroo, Foodpanda, whatever consumer app accounts that even you're using the same email to log into the apps, everything is fragmented. When you are Uber user, even you're a 4.99 rating, you go to a Deliveroo app, the Deliveroo app is not going to recognize your Uber rating and give you special benefits of it. You would become a new user to any kinds of new apps, and you would be treated as a new user, on and on. What we're proposing as an open network is we allow the users to tokenize and re-own the data from any kinds of web data through CKTLS, and also allow the first-party data owner to issue data back to the user, and going forward, the user can carry those data and verify anywhere. So, what is Moca Network? Moca Network is solving the problem with two main products. One is through AIR SDK. And what AIR SDK is, AIR stands for Account, Identity, and Reputation. And AIR SDK allow all the largest consumer apps to have an embedded wallet user experience, have embedded digital identity, and allow the user to use the same key to encrypt and decrypt data, and allow the user to go to any other consumer apps and verify their data if they approve it. So Kaya is one good example of having similar experience, but we are enabling these user experiences to the largest consumer apps in the whole world. We started with SK Planet, which is the second largest company in Korea, SK Telecom, next to Samsung. They got 28 million KYC users. The AirKit, Air SDK global account is already natively integrated and embedded in the largest loyalty program in Korea. There's a lot more that is coming forward. OneFootball has 200 million users, one of the largest football media apps in the world. And the Moca Network's Air SDK would also be deeply and natively integrated with the consumer apps. What that means is in the future, the OneFootball users are able to generate data based on their achievement within one app. They can encrypt the data, they can generate a zero-knowledge proof, they can allow that zero-knowledge proof to be verified on-chain by any other consumer apps, and creating programmable logic and system logic after that. So with the decentralized data storage, that actually allow reusable zero-knowledge proof credentials as well. So what we do here is basically easily onboard, verify, and help our partners and users to monetize and maximize their rewards and their benefits. This is a very relatively detailed way to explain how it works, but basically the TLDR, or the summary of it, is a user getting onboarded, they have a digital identity, they try to visit an app, the app asks for the user credential, and then the user would be signing a transaction saying that I approve you to verify my credential, and then the app would open up the access and open up the other rewards for the users. And all of these data are being stored, encrypted, and being basically accessible by any other apps with the user approval. So it comes down to the AIR SDK, and the AIR SDK actually has the account feature that allow any other users that has the same identity, same email, or same phone number, being able to share a global account. And imagine if the entire Moca brands portfolio companies with hundreds of companies, hundreds of millions of users, federated in each consumer app and sharing the same account, managing the same assets, managing the same identity, and cross-verification is possible among all those companies and all those users. This is our answer to building a network and growing that network effect. And not only that, we're not only working with portfolio companies, but also with large user base partners like SK, that you can see here is already live in the app in the largest loyalty program in Korea. So what that brings you is a global embedded account. You can bring your own authentication, meaning that SK doesn't need to create another login. You can use the SK login in order to generate a wallet. You can manage your identity, manage your assets. All the transactions can be gasless and signless. You don't need to repeatedly sign transactions. You don't need to pay gas. There's biometrics 2FA to secure the account. And there are wallet services such as swaps, on-off ramp, and all those features as well in the SDK. Second is the Air identity and credentials. If you look at the screen here, it's all Korean, but if you look at the screen here, basically, if you want to redeem a reward and it asks you for your credentials on Korea Air, and normally, how can you prove to any companies or any apps that you're a Korea Air Premium member? With our tech stack, that would actually allow you to tokenize any kinds of web data and encrypt the data, generate a zero-knowledge proof, and able to allow any other apps to verify the status of the user. So here, once you click it, you're actually going to verify you're a Korea Air Premium member. Once you click verify, you're actually allowing the access to SK in order to verify that data, so that you would actually be able to redeem your rewards or to get access to certain kinds of exclusive access. So all of the data is privacy preserved using zero-knowledge proof. Any kinds of web data can be tokenized through CKTOS. There's an embedded monetization layer there that actually track the issuance and verification. So this is the end-to-end SDK. Once a network is integrating, basically all those users and all those data can be cross-verified. So just to quickly share a little bit of background, and Moca has been investing in the space for the past 8 to 9 years, and we've been thinking a lot about how do we truly build synergy across all these companies. And the answer to that, and today especially, is we believe digital identity would create the explosive growth within not only our ecosystem, but the entire Web2 and Web3 ecosystem. Interestingly, when we talk to Web2 companies, they find it even more valuable than when we actually talk to Web3 companies. Because the Web2 companies, you can see ad revenue is going down. You can see user is still there. But then how do you actually create a more enriched user experience that is not only provided by one app, but a network of internet services? So with our background not only in Web3 investment, but also in a lot of exposure in Web2 with brands and so on, we do believe the answer to network effect is digital identity. We would be using our, we'll be adopting the Moca token as the core verification transaction fees, gas fees, and using that for staking, locking, and so on. The token is already live for almost a year now, and we do believe with this network effect, it needs to come with core incentive layer in order to create a vibrant ecosystem. So this is it, and thank you so much for everyone's time.